Welcome to the ET Stand, the Cronulla Sharks fans podcast. You idiots. I'm just laughing at these clowns just trying to make faces at me in the background. On this episode of the ET Stand podcast, we are going to work out why, stop it, you idiots. We're going to try and work out what a dynasty is and if the Cronulla Sharks can ever build one of their own. We're just not content with one premier. These idiots in the background, I'm going to stop them from pulling faces at me. Let's just bring them in. That is Boldo's Tears. Chris Kelly, who would you move?
Where do we start? I'm glad Boldo didn't grow up in Egypt times because that's a terrible looking pyramid. It would have fallen over and collapsed by now. And given that he just Googled the squad and put Matt Ikavalu in the bottom and he hasn't been there since half of last year, our pyramid would have fallen over.
He's still on the page.
The pyramid would have fallen over. You would have been missing a foundation piece and it's fallen over.
Oh, Maloney is still... Away goes James Maloney! They're kicking him home, the Sharks fans! Maloney is there! Healy! It's Healy! And gone! On his departure day! Mitch Healy gets a try! The crowd have gone absolutely bereft!
In amongst all of that, Latz had an awesome story about how awesome this Finau guy was, and then Boldo concludes it with like, yeah, Finucane, how good is he? And everyone goes,
I don't even know who Finau is. I just assumed that Finau was the same guy as Finucane. Is that a different person? I didn't know that. Who the hell's Finau?
Wow. This is how flawed the tears are. He doesn't even know half the team.
Boldo.
This is where the tears bit comes into it.
I'm listening to the car going, did my stream just like skip 30 seconds or something? Like, no, it was just Boldo just playing along. But anyway.
Peachy, great ball to Campbell. He's away. Campbell to the 30-metre line. Now, Colin Best heading to the corner. Gets it back on the inside. Graham, they're over. Nick Graham has scored. 4 minutes into the game. And it's away. Here they are. Pryor, can he get it there? Yes, he can. Matt Pryor, an unlikely first try scorer for the Sharks.
Interesting enough that the North Bears are getting that desperate. They're talking about having a Pacific Bears team so they can sort of engulf those Pacific nations and sort of get that ball rolling where they think they can sort of, take on the Cook Islands and the Samoans and the Tongas and sort of make it their team. So PNG's to go for me.
I'm pretty convinced after that. All right, Franko, what do you got?
Mate, can I rebuttal that, or am I giving it a different answer?
Don't have enough arguments on this podcast. Come on,
you're going to throw out cans and they're going to play out again.
Ever. That is the dumbest idea ever.
Townsville now calling the shots with Johnson off. They will go. Gallen, field goal. Paul Gallen, field goal. That is amazing. That is ridiculous. Away. It's back to Smith. Smith gets it away to Cronk. Cronk's got Korobetti with it. Have they got a chance here? Korobetti's put down. The siren sounds. Cronulla have won it. Cronulla have won it. 14 to 12. You can turn the light out now.
For over 50 years, people have come to see the Sharks play. Talent, skill, speed, intelligence. elite level athleticism. That's not these guys. Biased, one-eyed, opinionated, more often wrong than right. They make up for their complete lack of talent with pure dribble, gibberish, and enthusiasm. This is the ET Stand Podcast. Can the Sharks stay in the winner's circle and build some momentum heading into the NRL finals? Welcome to the ET Stand, the Cronulla Sharks fans podcast, where we let our talking do the football. Hit the subscribe button if you are new to the channel. It just helps us tell all those other Sharks fans and you about all of our upcoming videos. Give us a like if you're enjoying the show. Give us a rating on Spotify. Give us a high five. Give us anything, just whatever you want. Just help us. Off the back of a big week for the ET Stand after the Dino Mezzatesta interview, we have a few things planned for this show. In light of that, Dino challenged us to get our thinking caps on for game day experiences at PointsBet Stadium that you would like to see. So get your suggestions down there into the comments. We'll preview the Cowboys match. We'll chat all things Jets and NRLW because there's a bit happening in that space. We have our regulars with Around the League and all of the Sharks news that are doing the rounds in social media. And we'll also debrief that interview that I had with Dino Mezzatesta. Hello, fellas. Welcome back. Footy's back for the Sharks this week. We all pumped up. Franko, welcome.
Bring it. Thank you. Pretty sad to see Lat's not here, so we can't wear the basketball gear, so I'm stepping up and representing. It's not the Bulls. We've got the Hornets. That'll have to do.
Franko, just going to ask you quickly, do you know what my nickname is in reference to underneath my name Boldo there?
I do not.
All right, you can think about that during the show. And if anyone can come up with the answer during the show, why
is it anything to do with you sliding into my DMs at night or what?
No, it is not to do with sliding into anyone's DMs, but I'll slide into your DMs, Matthew. Hello, welcome.
Thank you, mate.
Nothing else for me, just hello.
Nah, just hello. You were saying hello. It's great to be back. It's great to be football. It's welcome back yourself. Were you here last week?
No, I wasn't. I was doing the Dino Mezzatesta interview last week, Matty. So I gave myself the week off because I was concentrating on trying to just give a pointed interview. So we will just stay that. And Lats has come through with he's having the boys having a little bit of FOMO. We'll run through the comments. We'll just say, g'day to you, Harley. Yes, Liam Eisen has been picked on debuting at fullback and go the Sharks girls. The sports music god has said that you have the wood over the Cowboys. We do.
Don't mock us.
I'm never talking about streaks ever again. And then Ashley saying, welcome, lads, and then bring it. Chris Kelly, it was almost not on the show, so we'll say g'day to you as well. But let's get into Latch's social media roundup straight away. In the absence of the great man, without further ado, there's been plenty of excitement amongst the Sharks fans on the social media channels for young Liam Eisen's promotion into the starting first-grade squad after Will Kennedy's unjust suspension and running into referee Adam G and Cronulla's trouncing of the Tigers a fortnight ago. Sharkies fans are expecting big things from Eisen, given his prolific try-scoring in the New South Wales Cup. 9 tries in 10 games? Liam has been a big part of the Jets this season and was rested or not picked last week, so fans are predicting him to be a star of the future. We will certainly talk about Liam shortly. The NRLW kicks off this week with the Sharks taking on the Cowboys at 11:05 a.m. at PointsBet Stadium with coach Tim Henman's tennis player. What the hell am I talking about? Sorry, I've been covering you up, Chris. There we go. Sorry, mate.
Come on, mate. Sort it out.
We'll see. How good's that? Tony Herman naming the same side that played in that impressive trial against the Roosters. Ex-rugby sevens gun Georgia. Hanaway has been named to make her NRL debut. Off the bench, Lats calls it exceptional playmaking ability. Look out for that and some X factor that should give the Sharks a chance to really shake it up in the NRLW. We are at $7 to win the NRLW. Full season Sharks members receive access as part of their membership, so you can simply scan your passes at the gate to gain normal entry. On to the Jets. The high-flying Jets were grounded over the weekend, going down to the now 9th place Newcastle Knights in the Hunter, which saw the Jets fall back to 5th place. The Blue Bags and Billy Burns, because I'm calling Billy Burns the star player of the Jets at the minute, can get their top 4 push back on track this Saturday when they host the Parramatta Eels, who are currently sitting 10th for that 1981 grand final rematch. You can see the map of the Henson Park for the annual Beer, Footy and Food Festival, which is a great day out. You get the tickets at beerfootyfood.com. The Shark Store. Don't miss the grand opening of the new Shark Store in Bay Central Woolooware this Friday, July 26th. Chris Kelly's probably camping out and just got his sleeping bag ready.
Merch on.
I guess he can get his merch on. Look, if you want to go down there and buy some merch, by all means do so. You can also team that up with a succulent Chinese meal at the Golden Bay. Perhaps either way, get there to grab a deal on some merch and check out the new fit out. And please note that the merch store at Karela is now permanently closed. We didn't have time. Lats didn't get the Toby Rudolph story in that was featured on, NRL.com, where Toby called out that he felt responsible for the loss of the Bulldogs. Toby does tend to do that, and so he was very candid in terms of his performance this season. So hopefully we'll be seeing a big performance from him. And there's a whole bunch of other commentaries in there about how Britain Nakora is looking to shut down Tom Dearden. We'll talk about that in the Cowboys match coming up. And then lastly, I just want to personally say thank you to all of the messages of encouragement and appreciation that I got for the Sharks CEO, Dino Mezzatesta interview. I don't claim to be an interviewer specialist, but I certainly tried to give us Sharks fans a bit of an insight into what's going on with the Sharks at the moment. Dino is an incredibly impressive guy and was very generous with his time. And I think there's a good format and a good way for him to kind of give the Sharks kind of update. And it was nice that even the leader picked up. We've got a couple of scoops, which we'll talk through in a second. That is the socials for us this week, lads. Thank you to Lats for doing that for us. As we jump into the next segment, which is not the social roundup, CEO interview. Franko, last week I had the pleasure of interviewing Dino. If you missed it, I encourage you to check it out. It is now our most watched video in terms of hours watched on our YouTube channel. It is he was very forthcoming. So Franko, what were your key takeaways that you learnt from our fearless CEO from that interview, mate?
Yeah, it was good watching for those that haven't caught it yet. Obviously, don't take what we say here for granted. Go and have a watch, have a listen to the great man speak himself. He comes across very passionately for the club. I guess first things first, the Karela club was something that I was really interested to hear about. There were discussions when it happened about, does that make it a spot that's available for us to develop? And it appears that is something that could be done in the future if we so needed to or desired. No plans as yet. Obviously, the club is doing really well, quite profitable, and great addition to the Sharks portfolio. So that was really good to hear. One of the interesting things that I thought came out of that, and sometimes you make your own luck. The reason that we were able to acquire the club was because we were looking to, with the understanding that the club would be closed for renovations, looking to find another home for a temporary period. And the option of actually taking ownership was put forward. So it sort of seemed a bit more opportunistic than strategic. However, obviously it's something that they'd be keeping behind locked doors. So I don't think they'd give us all the goss, but I didn't seem like there were any plans to amalgamate with any other clubs or add any into the portfolio in the future, which is a bit of a shame. So hopefully with how successful this has been, hopefully they're looking to add more clubs, maybe most likely around the Shire, that would be interested in flying the Sharks brand and bumping up that club culture that we've got. I think it's pretty important. You've seen other strong clubs in the league who have multiple clubs around their catchment areas, and I think Karela should have been maybe the first step in many, and hopefully that's the case instead of just one and done.
Agreed there. You look at, so the Panthers out where I live, there's a lot of Panthers clubs around outside of the main Panthers club. Down in Canberra, there's lots of Raiders clubs. Up in Newcastle, big West Leagues there, which is enormous. It's like a not quite Penrith Leagues, but comparatively speaking, huge. They've got quite a few clubs up there and brought into the Knights a few years ago when they were struggling. So you're right. If they can find the right figures. So Dino did say that Carilla was losing about $500,000 a year under Moorbank Sporties. Owning that, they were able to turn that round into was about 800 to 900, so just under $1 million a year profit, picking up a good price around was that early 2020, not long after we moved there, and with COVID and everything kicking off. So opportunistic, but it's fallen in their lap. Make your own luck. Go from there.
Absolutely, yeah. So, like I said, really good to see it. Hopefully, there's more to come though. It seems that he's just as frustrated about the Leagues Club as we are in terms of its progress and where it's going. So it was really good to hear him speak candidly about that. We see the monthly updates from the CEO report. There's only so much you can say there. So sort of backing what Boldo said earlier, this gave him a little bit of a different platform to talk to it. And it was good that he did. And he was quite open about that. We all sort of said when we were reading the updates previously that early to mid next year would be a bit of a tough watermark to achieve. And the end of 2025 seems a lot more realistic. So let's hope that we actually hit that target, because he certainly made it sound as though that Leagues Club is pretty important to the game day experience, which we'll talk about later, but also making sure that we get the people into the grounds that we want to see there. I think also it was great to see both Dino and the board's mentality in keeping the Wolves at bay. The plan is just to be good, right? Financially stable, performing on and off the field. Certainly when there's always one or two basket case clubs each year, just making sure we aren't one of them, right? It keeps us in mind for various opportunities like the Vegas opportunity, like the NRLW, keeps us away from relocation and NRL license revocation discussions. So I think it sort of seems so simple, but, and obviously it's a lot harder to achieve than just talking about it, but knowing that that's basically the goal, right? Just don't be bad, be good, make sure everything's stable, make sure everything's working is great, because that's just something every common fan talks about, right? Why are we doing this to ourselves? Why are we, not in discussion for other things? And they're sort of trying to keep that all in play just by dotting your I's, crossing your T's, and hopefully that's something that can continue. Obviously, there's a little bit of luck in that as well, but again, as the theme is, you make your own luck. So if you keep doing the right things, hopefully then we just go from strength to strength.
We're 10 years on from 2014. So look at where we are now compared to that. So
exactly. So no, that was really good. And speaking of stability, with the contract of Dino being up next year, well, I hope the board looks to sign him up for another 5 years. He does seem to want to stay, at least in terms of getting the club finished and up and running. So you know what? Let's get it done, Sharkies. Let's keep him around. Let's keep that stability going, especially if both parties want to, because I know I want him to stick around.
I found that interesting that he was on a contract rather. I understand being on a contract, sure, but the fact that it was kind of a termed contract like a coach or a player, really interesting, rather than hey, you're on a contract, but it's until the job is done, until we give you the flick or whatever. That was interesting.
Yeah.
Could be the most important signing. Sharks,
absolutely. Yep, definitely. Absolutely. So yeah, hopefully he sticks around. I really would enjoy to see that put to bed, and sooner rather than later. The Endeavour High School deal was pretty interesting one. I was really quite impressed to hear about that one. We all know there's plenty of great talent that's funneled through that school, not only Sharks players and not only NRL players, but lots of sporting talent, and lots of NRL clubs sends their players there. So getting closer to aligning ourselves with that school can only be a good thing. Making sure there's a field on the grounds there for the school and exclusive use for the Sharks. We'll just get those players in and around there. Obviously, we don't quite know how the deal works in detail, but just being closer to that and getting that exposure really sort of fosters that community aspect of the club, and also gives us a bit of a leg up in hopefully developing some juniors, while giving our squad teams somewhere else to play that we desperately need.
If we can get more Endeavour High talent our way, that'd be great, because so many players, a lot of them are signed up from 12, 13, 14, right when they started Endeavour, but play in those teams that end up winning multiple schoolboys comps or making the final or close to it and go play for the Bulldogs, play for the Dragons, play for the Roosters, play for others. It'd be nice to keep some.
Absolutely, yeah. I also think the discussion of technology for the ground to try and...
The question was for you, Franko, that one.
Yeah.
That was all for you, baby.
We all sort of brainstorm various things, how to make it better, what to do. I've got an IT background, so I've got a million ideas of what to do there. So good to hear they're not sitting on their hands and they're actually working out solutions, and they've got some plans in place that hopefully come to fruition in the future. But that's a really good one. I do think he certainly seems to have a passion for the club, which is great to see. Over someone who's just treating it like another job. I certainly really appreciate the time that he gave us and the fans to have this chat and a little bit of a peek behind the curtains.
I thought personal faves for me was his takes on, where he came out with, we all know as Sharks fans that we've never quite won until we've won. He just kind of lamented the position of the Sharks. I thought it was a lot of fun. And then I was a bit bummed that he ducked my question about taking the 2. I wish that he'd answered more candidly.
That was his way of saying you got to treat each case on its merits, but
I think it was
someone else's argument.
You might have interpreted it. I interpreted you're right, Boldo, but I can't admit that the coach makes the wrong decision and should take the 2 more often.
Yeah.
That's how I
protects his team. I
won't tell you how I interpreted it. So move on.
Big one, 18,000 capacity and actually breaking down how that will happen. Really interesting. So obviously the egress, the exits, there's going to be a new exit with the remodeled ground in the northeastern corner, reclaiming the northwestern corner where currently the big pop-up chairman's lounge is. Hopefully that is reclaimed to be a beer hill of sorts, given that beer hill is now gone. And then also too, the fact that rooftop bar, patio, beer garden, whatever you can call it, is actually a thing. I was a bit worried there when I saw the Chinese restaurant go in for the Panthers game. I was like, I thought that was going to be the club. But seeing that the big deck is still going to be a thing is fantastic. So 18,000 is the figure.
Yeah, not bad. Pretty good. Ashley Williams here comes in and he talks about D-La have a strong academy. And you're right, Ashley, they certainly do. But you know what? D-La is dyed in the wool Cronulla Sharks. So I think that the difference here is that a lot of other clubs utilize Endeavour, and it's just down the road from our PointsBet Stadium. I think we should try and get a better feel with them and try and get them a little bit closer. So
stake a claim.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Let's go. I'm gonna go. My small takeaway is Boldo wearing merch during the interview, but now he's not. But this is one of my things. I love a bit of merch. But Franko, I endeavour you to go have a look. I might send you the video later of the Clippers opening a new stadium in LA for their new sort of Clippers get away from sharing with the Lakers, and it's all technology based where you can press and play games from the comfort of your seat. You can sort of check out stats that you want to do on your own screen and things like that. So they're going full technology bound. So, I'll send you that video to have a look at installing technology in stadiums. But, it's funny with that northeast and northwest. I'd probably prefer to move an egress and entrance exit in the northwest more than the northeast, because given that, they're sort of, you see a lot of people on game day come from those that park at the back of the apartment buildings. Residents there as well would probably prefer to go instead of all that distance where Boldo mentioned in the interview, the old toilet block entrance, where you got to sort of walk past the Lees Club and sort of go through that way. So I found that an interesting part of it.
Wow. If you put it there, then you've got to filter through the Woolooware Bay precinct and all of the eateries and the pubs and the Chinese restaurant.
Yeah. But you think you'd go through that other southern gate first anyway. So it was a bit strange. Maybe egress more than, but we'll see. Good to see they've got sort of future planning in there.
Still wondering where the extra 5,000 come in, but I guess it's just the exit. They'll just be jam-packed in.
Yeah.
Well, like Maddie said, they get rid of that pop-up tent, that corporate tent where Channel 9 sit. They sort of, that's where the corporate section is. You get your 800 seats that Dino mentioned back in the Peter Burns stand. So, we'll see what they can do with that.
The deck capacity was about, we didn't specify, but 600. Okay. Yeah. So, and then the fact that the family hill's sparse.
Just a few little extras, isn't it? All right. Yeah. Franko, anything else? Are you going to read the last point, or are you just going to ignore that?
I did. I've said that already. Done it.
Fair enough.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dino.
For those not privy to the notes, it was for Franko to say something nice about the interviewer and to say, "Good job, Boldo," but it's not in Franko's DNA to ever give me a compliment, is it, mate?
You already did it in the social roundup, so I didn't think I needed to do it again.
Fair enough. All right. Well,
I would suggest, Boldo, if you could suggest to Dino, like from watching that, was a lot better than reading his email coming out on his, his updates. So, maybe punch out a quick little video. You can just read off the script, and it might be a little bit more enjoyable. See his face and hear him talking.
Well, just when you're communicating with someone directly, he can also gauge my reactions to what he was saying. And so when I leaned in and was interested in asking him questions about parts, that was a bit of a tell of what the Sharks fans would want to know. The coaching I got from my mate from Business Insider was ask the 3 questions that Sharks fans want to know. So I leaned into those, and we got a pretty good outcome out of it. So, yeah, well, hopefully we'll be looking to do a few more of those in the coming weeks.
I'll give you a compliment on one part, David. One part was specifically regarding the Will Kennedy challenge. So you were talking about how much the club, Mooney basically spent the entire weekend ad nauseum going through all of the permutations, or obviously all the due diligence, speaking to lawyers, and Dino was involved a fair bit too. And as you specified, or clarified or embellished, whichever word you want to call it, Dino's time is money. All of our coaching staff, club staff, time is money. And the fact that they spend all that time, and I know there was some talk on social media in the forum saying, gosh, frustrating. And I expressed that same frustration going, the club's rolling over again. It wasn't a decision that was made lightly. And obviously we'd much rather them putting their time and effort into other parts of the club. But it was a decision. It was interesting to see how in-depth that decision-making is how hard it is to make those decisions, how much time and energy was put in. And that was unfortunately the ultimate result of we'll roll over and take the one. So, yeah, interesting.
I also thought it was interesting how it was basically just a text message group and them acting like we would this charge. And it's just like, well, actually, that is how they would do it. It's like, why would they be any different to us? Oh, should we challenge that? Oh, yeah, look at that.
David, you're in business. I'm not sure. Like my organization's pretty much the same, depending on the level of what's being chatted about. It's just, this has just happened. It's 10 o'clock on a Saturday night. What do we do? Like that's how things go. Yeah,
that's probably right. All right, well, look, if you missed that video, do go and check it out if you haven't seen it. It's a good way to get to know our fearless CEO of the Cronulla Sharks a little bit better. I had a lot of fun doing that, so hopefully we'll get a few more of those in the coming weeks. Cronulla Sharks head up to QCB Stadium, which stands for Queensland Country Bank Stadium, for those that didn't know, for a round 21 Saturday, 5:30 p.m. clash with the North Queensland Cowboys. The Cowboys, fresh off a Sunday night win over the Bulldogs at home, get to stay in Townsville for another week. Sitting 8th on the ladder at the moment, but for now, they'll be hoping for back-to-back wins to entrench themselves into the top 8. Matty, can you give us the storied history of the Sharks versus the Cowboys? I think it's a goodie.
Did you just say for now or for now?
For now.
That guy plays for the Tigers these days. So Sharks, Cowboys. I was away when we played them earlier in the year, so I couldn't give you the rundown then. 57 matches in total. We had the wood on them. So if you go back, and I'll let you regurgitate that, maybe that comment from Sports Music God talking about having the wood over things. We haven't so much of late in that we have had a few wins recently, but the Cowboys have obviously got plenty back compared to the start of it. So 57 matches total, Sharks 38, Cowboys 19. When it comes to Cowboys home matches, Sharks have 17, the Cowboys 11. So things have evened up there after early on. The Cowboys weren't great after they came in the competition in 95. Our very first match in North Queensland, do you guys have any memory of that? That was in 1996. Probably not. It was No, the Sharks lost. So the Sharks won their first match against the Cowboys in 95. We played them once at home at Caltex, then we lost 16-10 at what was then known as Stockland Stadium, which became Dairy Farmers 1-300 Smiles. That horrible stadium we saw them lose 39-0 to the Cowboys in 2015. Anyway, so we lost first start there. Then we won a whole stack in a row. The longest winning streak away is the Sharks with 6 in a row there, and by way of away games as well, it's 6 as well. Total win streak, we've had a 12-match winning streak over them back in the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s, where they've only had the maximum win streak for them is 3. So they haven't held the wood over us for long, but they have got us 3-2 when it comes to finals. The last time they beat us, do you remember when that was? I was talking to you offline about this, David. The guys, do you know when that was?
Field goal from Holmes, right?
Yeah, it was. Unfortunately, it was. We'll call it the Peter Hiku challenge when he put the ball on Matt Mullen's foot and the knock-on got overturned and an 8-point lead evaporated.
I see that in my memory. I just flush them out.
Yeah, exactly. Between that and the 2015, 2017 finals.
That was also the Connor Tracy sin bin too.
Yeah, we don't need to relive that one. Anyone who suggests that for the Chronicles, the answer is no. So 2013 and 2016, we beat them. Anyway, so by way of recent start, we beat them 42-6. We also beat them 32-12 last year in the corresponding fixture, which was a Nico Hines standout and Royce Hunt turning the game off the bench. In the overall aggregate, for those trying to qualify for the World Cup, it's Cronulla Sharks 1,392 to North Queensland 1,076. And we've had a few players that have played for both clubs. Obviously, we've got Valentine Holmes, Chad Townsville, late, Josh Hannay. So we could probably put a team together in future rounds against them. I haven't had a chance to today. John Williams and the like. So, guys... Yeah, Paul Green, exactly. The list goes on. We could get a team together quite easy. James Maloney's on their coaching staff at the moment, so you might be able to squint your eyes and call him a dual Cowboy Shark as well. Hopefully things carry on here, but we will see. They had a good win on the weekend against the Bulldogs.
You giving us a tip, Matty?
I am going to say Sharks by 6.
Fair enough. Sharks by 6 by Matthew Williams. All right, Chris, take us through the team list.
Well, obviously the biggest change that everyone's excited about is Liam Eisen starting in fullback over Will Kennedy. So pretty much the team runs out as normal. We've obviously got Cam McInnes as captain, Boldo's favourite. Talakai back on the bench at 14. Tom Hazelton, Toby Rudolph, and Hammy Newelly. We've got Royce Hunt and Kafusi starting in the front row. So not too many changes, obviously, except for Liam Eisen. But yeah, excited to see his debut. We all talked about options the other week, but we all thought the best option was a plug-and-play player at fullback. So that's the way the Sharks have gone. I did mention to you guys in the group chat, interestingly enough, that he didn't play for the Jets last week. So it must have been covering him in cotton wool and getting into a bit of training. But most of the team were floating around on holidays over that bye weekend. So this is our Sharks team. Thoughts?
Look, it's the big bench again. So the Cowboys team's a bit more mobile than ours. And I chatted with the guys from the On the Ranch podcast. They'll have a little bit more speed in Drinkwater and Dearden in and around that. Eisen was an interesting choice. I don't think we would have picked that last week. I don't think that was one of the lead candidates on our... It was in there as an option, but it wasn't the lead. This will definitely happen. I don't know. I was watching the show. I don't remember you guys saying Eisen, but what you know.
It was
I thought it was a fairly high chance.
No, definitely not your pick. It was definitely Dino Mezzatesta's pick. Well, it's a competent Sharks team. Tomo's calling out that he thinks the Cowboys are pretty much full strength. Will be tough, but I think we're up for it. Need to continue on from the bye. And Lats has come through picking a Sharks win by 14. And then Tomo's backed that up with, it was a tough win over the Doggies. I reckon Mayo tied the Cowboys. We hope they did have a Sunday night game. So we'll see. And Harley's just reminded us that the Sharkies beat the Cowboys 32-12 in a similar match towards the end of 2023. Franco, do you want to give us? Oh, actually, no. Let's do the. Let's look at this.
Cowboys.
Let's look at the Cowboys team. Just take us through them.
Yeah, so Scotty Drinkwater, like you mentioned, at fullback, Kyle Felt, Jackson Purdue played last week for him, Vayella in the centres, and our old mate Val Holmes on the wing. Tommy Dearden in the chat at 7, Jordan McLean, Reece Robson, Jason Tomalolo to start, who has been coming off the bench most of the season. But Lukey, who scored a double last week, Jeremiah Nanai, Ruben Cotter at 13, McIntyre, Harrison Edwards, Fidafuke, and Griffin Neem. The coach is my twin, Todd Payton. I watched the game last week against the Dogs. It was one of those sort of Cowboys matches where you sort of get in July, still quite dewy. They did have a lot of players backing up, so they did look a bit clunky, and the Dogs are renowned for their defence. So the game wasn't of high try scoring or high ability, but they snuck away with the win right at the end. Their leaders normally, like Tom Dearden, the Chad, Reece Robson, and Scott Drinkwater, gone around the field, and they got home just with the chocolates to annoy the Dogs. Look, their bench isn't obviously as strong as us. I don't think anyone's got the same sort of bench that we do, that we go into any sort of game. But maybe after staying, like Boulder mentioned, staying home for another week, playing in North Queensland, they might have a bit more rest up their sleeves. But a bit of another enigma team that we've looked at this back end of the draw that we're going to face, where you just can't pick what these teams are going to do. We've seen the Cowboys turn up to some massive games and other times just absolutely falter away. So I'm saying Sharks by 6, but with not much confidence it could swing either way.
Drinkwater causes a lot of trouble last year, and it was really only our forwards. I think Royce Hunt and it might have even been Hazelton, I can't recall, came off the bench and changed it for us because their starting pack was carving up through the middle. I know that Drinkwater scored the opening try, set up another, and was it 12-all from memory? And then it was when, basically our forwards turned the match and we kicked away with it. But they've got the potential, if they hold the ball up there, big crowd, anything could happen.
Franko, what's your analysis?
Yeah, I think we'll just bring up Cecil's comment here. He's asking who's going to be bruising Dearden's ribs. Don't tackle him high. Well, Cecil, that will be Nickera's job. He's going to be on him like glue, and it's going to be a tough ask because Dearden's quick. He's got a good step, good dummy and run. So between him and Atkinson, they're really going to need to man up and make sure they close down his opportunities. I guess we'll wait and see if Val stays on the wing or if he shifts in to centre. But Val on the wing is a pretty scary proposition in and of itself. So hopefully he doesn't get too many opportunities out there because we know he can finish it off, and he's also good for an intercept. So just be aware of that if he stays out on the wing. On our team, I think it's interesting. We all are excited about Ison. I hope he has a bang-up game. He's a nimble, quick support runner. He will go up the middle. He will try and get us meters, and he'll be there looking for an offload or a support play at every opportunity. So it'll be sort of, I guess, if we're looking, recent Sharkies fullbacks, not that there's many to pick from, a bit of Lockie Miller sort of style against the Titans we'll hope for, where he's trailing up the middle. Don't think about too many of those sweeping block plays or anything, and he will maybe sneak through the middle and score a try the way Lockie Miller did in his debut match. It'd be nice to see. Yeah, Williams.
A big shout out for Dan from Fins Up, who sent me some intel on Liam Ison this evening. Thanks for that. It was a nice surprise to see my inbox there. So Liam Ison cheat sheet from the guy who has watched every Newtown match this year says Dylan Edwards clone. We've heard that a lot. Still flag eligible, so very young, quick and super powerful for his frame. He's obviously still growing, but that's good to hear. A little worried under the high ball, but positionally he's flawless, and he's projecting 150 meters plus. The kid loves ball in hand and contact, so looking for some hard runs back out of trouble, and hopefully he doesn't injure himself in the process. I'm sure they're going to be putting plenty of high balls up. Will be interesting to see how that goes, especially with Katoa being suspect under the high ball. I know last time we copped that against the Titans, there was a bit of positional change happening with Katoa not even dropping back, just Kennedy and Ronaldo covering 2 for the price of 3 or 3 for the price of 2. But Ison, hopefully he's good under the high ball. As for Matthew, what was his name? Rodwell. There wasn't much good comments about him, but we don't need to consider him because he didn't make the team. So
no.
There you go.
So yeah, hopefully, it's not too much of a shock to the system coming up against NRL standard players. He is used to bouncing off defenders and pushing through the line, but he might be in for a bit of a different experience in the NRL, and hopefully he's up for the task, which would be really good to see. Interesting to note is Stone Street was listed on the extended bench, so that looks good to see that he's probably over his quote-unquote illness, whatever that was keeping him out for the last few weeks. So he's back. I'm guessing he's only there for cover in case something happens in the next few days. Probably won't travel with the team and drop back to the Jets at some point this week. But good to see that he's back. The other one that is also on the extended bench is Jack Williams, who is recovering from his wrist injury. So good to see that he's also back in consideration for getting some game time. If he was fit and healthy, I'm not sure who he would replace. It's a bit of a Fitzgibbon question for that one. You've already dragged Rudolph over the coals, and he performed well before the bye. You can't really just drop him again. I don't think that'd be a bit of a confidence shatterer. We've talked about Hazelton maybe needing a bit of a break, so if the bye wasn't enough, maybe that's him. Or Hamlin Ueli's been in and out all season. This would be technically 2 games in a row if you don't include the bye. So we'll see what happens there if he's fit and ready to go. But probably leave the bench as is, I imagine.
You'd argue they're all 4 middles, with Talakai the only one able to provide some edge back row coverage. So yeah,
bench.
Williams can provide a bit of edge.
The Cowboys is that Murray Tawalangi, or however you say that, might be a late inclusion, which would push Valentine Holmes into the centres. I think the hot tip was that he would come in for Valia.
Over Purdue?
Purdue. Yeah.
Valia's been there for most of the season, so it's probably Purdue's the play that dropped out there.
So they got a good looking forward pack, these Cowboys, like McLean, Taumalolo, Nanai, Cotter. They're no slouches.
Are they good players as well?
He spent too much on the other side, Boldo. Taumalolo has been an absolute shadow of himself for the last 18 months, if not 2 years.
He's been better.
He's been ahead of that starting time. Yeah, it's not Taumalolo of 5 years ago. They signed him to a 10-year contract. This was always the risk. He's been punching out 35 to maybe 40 minutes a game. He normally comes off the bench. So to see him start's a bit of a change. I think the biggest positive for us, and we've talked about depth, obviously, is Ison playing with Atkinson before, who mentioned today was quite excited. He's had a bit of a combination with him before. And obviously, we have a few of our forwards going back and forth to the Jets team. So the team was all around him. I wish Latz got it just before he's probably didn't get to catch it on the socials, but Will Kennedy shared a photo of him. I think it was on his debut in the locker room, and young Ison was in the background behind him as like a 12-year-old. So quite of an interesting photo. But all the boys are apparently really excited he's going to get a start. So it's probably a big positive that you got Atkinson running around who's played with Ison before. So
Two questions. Taumalolo, he played a milestone match against us last year, and he bizarrely came out to a banner with he was carrying or walking his dog, and had a pretty good start. His first 20 minutes, all the commentary was like, "How good's Taumalolo?" And then he just faded away. A few errors.
He carried his dog.
Carried his dog. It was strange. It was up there with Luke Brooks.
Kids to bring out.
It was up there with Luke Brooks being presented a barbecue by West Tigers as thanks for your time there, champ. Before he departed Manly. The other part, Will Kennedy's debut. Do you guys remember when and who that was against?
Shark Park. Shark Park.
It was Sharks.
And I mean, if Ison was in there, you'd want to say Panthers, but I thought it was the Tigers.
You're right. It was Panthers. Easter weekend 2019.
I was going to say 2019.
It was the Bronson Sherry game where we came back from 20-6 down. Sherry scoring that length of field try after Josh Dugan tripped over. I think it was DWZ in support, and the video ref didn't see it.
It was a bit of a forgettable game for young Will Kennedy. And I was talking to Matty Russell, the Fox commentator at the time, who had had many, many pages of stats and notes and things that he wanted to talk about for Will. And unfortunately, Will did not get an opportunity to do much at all. And Matty Russell did not get an opportunity to talk about any of his little pointers that he'd written down. So I'm sure he's had plenty of opportunities since then, but that day he was like, yeah, I really wanted him to do well too. It was pretty funny.
They do prep those debutants and those speeches. Franko, give us your tip, and then I'll give my tip, and we'll round out the Cowboys preview.
Yeah, I'm with CK. Not a lot of confidence in this one, but I do give us the win. Maybe 10 points.
All right, so that is 4 chips for the Sharks. So I am going to go against the grain, and I am going to say that we will not beat the Cowboys. I think to steal a line out of the Williams book, they're due. And I think they will.
You're right.
They will finally get over us. I just think without Nico and Kennedy, our attack will be stifled. I think the Cowboys have got a lot to play for. And just because we beat the West Tigers, we shouldn't forget the weeks before that. We might be in for a tough couple of weeks, but it'll be close. I think the Cowboys might get us by 8. Sharks to keep it close. But I do enjoy being wrong, so I look forward to Tomo's just come through on mute every time Boldo tips. Yeah,
no, Tomo. He spent too long on the Cowboys podcast. They sunk into his brain. They probably had a better convincing article. Don't worry about that. Listen,
SJD, what was the name?
He's very scarred from 2015 still.
What was the name of the podcast?
The Cowboys podcast? On the Ranch.
On the Ranch.
On the Ranch.
Yeah, so
spent too much time on the ranch.
On the ranch.
Well, they were lovely fellas. On the ranch guys.
I'm sure they were.
Set up.
Sounds like Cowboys #1 ticket holder David Bolderman.
Hardly.
He has been there quite a few times. He's been up there quite a bit.
Cecil's come through and tipping Sharkies by 19. If anyone wants to get their tips in later, looks like I am the only person that is not tipping the Sharks to win. So I look forward to being wrong on that front as we'll switch to that one. All right, that was the Sharks versus the Cowboys match preview. We'll be live with a debrief after the last game on Saturday night. So Sharks fans, do get your thoughts and feelings and join us for that live show. I look forward to being wrong on that live show for whoever is doing that one. We haven't worked out our lineup yet, actually. Well, I guess we'll have to work out whoever's doing the debrief this weekend. All right. Dino Mezzatesta challenged me and Sharks fans to think about what we should do for home games and brainstorms. How can we make the experience at PointsBet Stadium grander, better, more fun? So I put the challenge out to the lads for their individual ideas on how they could make home games better at Shark Park. We're going to start with you, Franko. But before we start with Franko, I'll say anyone in the comments, get your idea into the comments as well, because I'll send this segment to Dino, and if we've got any good ideas. All right, Franko, take it away. What are we doing?
Well, this is an idea I've had for a very long time, so I didn't have to dig deep in the well for this one. Plenty of other ideas, but I'll leave them for the other guys and for some of the fans to comment on. But this one I'm pretty passionate about. I really think it would really add to the calendar of Sharks fans. And while it wouldn't maybe improve the atmosphere for every game, I feel that what the Sharks should do is they should nominate a round, preferably a round that has multiple games on the day. So whether it's a flag game, then a cup game, then a first grade game, or a flag and then an NRLW and then first grade or men's, that would be probably a particularly good day for that kind of thing. And the thing is, a festival style all day engagement with the community. We've seen how at the end of a game, a home game, they close off Captain Cook Drive from the roundabouts, between the roundabouts there, to make sure that people can commute safely back to their cars or back to their homes or back to the trains. We should look to extend that to close it off for the day, or at least for while the game plays are on, and just fill it with streetcars, have a real festival there, food carts, rides, Ferris wheels, face painters, the whole thing, just have a real party atmosphere on that front street. just pack it with people. There's the fields behind there that you can put things on as well. Run clinics, do a whole bunch of things there. You could have that area filled with people all day, not even attending the game, but just adding to the atmosphere of the day. And those that are going to the game can go have a bit of fun out there, then go in, watch the game. Really, maybe people who aren't there for the game, but for the atmosphere and the fun might be like, oh, this Sharks thing's really a good idea. Maybe I will become a member, or maybe I will, support them in a little bit more. I haven't bought any merch lately. It brings people through the doors at Bay Central there as well. I think it's just a really good idea, and then it can become something that's a calendar item on every year that everyone looks forward to, and it gets bigger and bigger as the years go on. I think that's a winner.
Chris, is that a nightmare for police to manage, though?
No, because like Franko said, it goes through council, obviously, first for a bit of clarification. So like Franko said, they obviously do it at the end of the games where they close off so everyone can exit out safely, quickly and easy instead of blocking up that whole sort of Captain Cook drive. So it wouldn't be hard to get through. I'd probably piggyback on, I would jump on it early with Franko's CEO update, but amalgamation. I think Woolooware Golf Club's another great site, and you could include that as well, because obviously now with game day, there's less parking there. I park there and make the trek. It's quite easy when they shut down that road and make the walk a bit faster. So you imagine a Sharks amalgamation with Woolooware Golf Club and Karela Golf Club, and all of a sudden you've got a second location. But it's not that hard to organise, especially a one-off. It's not like it's going to be every week, so easy to do.
You could line it up too with a game which is notoriously a low draw, let's say against the Cowboys or something. You wouldn't do it against the Dragons or a big drawing team like that. You'd do it against the Cowboys, the Warriors.
Well, you would do it against the Dragons, Matty, because then people might come down just for the fun of the the fair and the festival and just see buddies down there.
You could, but you're right. But I think that if you boost those games where you're going to get maybe 12 or 13 or 14,000, if we have an 18,000 capacity and it gets a few extra people in the door, like for example, 2017, we had a ground record in its current configuration, Sharks versus Bulldogs. The Bulldogs are terrible. We had a whole stack of players out with Origin, and that was because they had one of those big try and break the world record for the most dancers on a field thing at halftime.
The dance record.
So those kind of things, use those initiatives to boost the crowd. And I think that, Franko's onto a winner there. That would be a real, although knowing the Sharks like it, probably absolutely bucket down for that weekend. You'd make sure it's lined up with 4 p.m. Sunday game or something. And ideally the weather would play nice. But yeah, that's a great idea.
You know, we get thrown on as well, Franko, is like a post-presentation on the field. Get a stage out there, have a presentation on the field. Maybe Boldo's favourite ex-band that used to play during the games. Chuck them out there till the players are sort of, like they've done before with Bo Ryan. They've done the big selfie. I know that Ash put up
these guys.
Yeah, they can play for half an hour to an hour before the boys come out. They can do a prezzo, set them out in the field. It'd be great. The fans stick around then. Kids playing footy on the field. I don't know what's happened with that. There must be some little precious new greenkeeper we have, because the kids out on the field just hasn't happened in quite some time. And kids get excited for that section of the game, like they get the run on. We still love it. Like we still run out there like idiots. Like I don't know what's going on there. Yeah, lose a couple of footballs, steal some extra ones. It's good fun. A couple of collisions.
All right. So idea number one is Franko's street fair.
Yeah. I was going to say good ideas, Kelly, but those things are more for after the game, and I think we need to build up the hype pre-match to carry it through.
I just mean, just include it afterwards, like for a thing afterwards to carry it on, so that way people still hanging around afterwards.
Yeah.
You can still have your street vendors outside, so they're still making money post-game as well, instead of just pre-game.
For sure.
All right, Chris, what's your idea?
As much as I like the favourite band we just brought up to sit on the stage at the southern end there, it'd be great to sort of hear them go on. Again, after hearing about what it costs for the NRL to put up the, our favourite part of the semi-finals, where the Flames come up and keep us warm during games, and I found out what they actually cost per game. It's quite exuberant, so I wouldn't suggest that. We've seen other ideas like Boldo's favourite, the Vuvuzelas over in the World Cup, but that would just drive people absolutely bananas. The Swans before have had happy clappers where they hand out the clapping things and everyone just makes noise all freaking game, but it just drives people nuts. We've seen the try, no try signs, and they just end up, in the waste tip and just take up too much space. So I I want to steal a little bit from you've seen in the playoffs in the NBA, and you also Boldo knows as well from the Steelers and the Pittsburgh. But instead of the towels, just have some smaller flags that are quite easy and cheap to send out to everyone. But just create that atmosphere when the team's coming back or they've scored a try. Because I can tell they're sort of trying to do things with the music these days, but it just doesn't. Like we saw with the Tigers game, it was quite flat, even when we're winning by 40 points. The crowd just wasn't into it. But at least something we can wave around. I did suggest before the cut-up jersey thing against the Dragons, but obviously it's going to come at a cost as well. So let's go with the smaller flags, the smaller sort of towels. Members can get them. You can get them on the entranceway as you come in instead of the, like we've done with the face mask, but they just end up everywhere. At least these things people will keep and take home. So just something small. Wave around. They can pump us up. Let's do it.
You know what would be good, Kelly? Would be. Yes, you mentioned.
Now we got to tell this idea. Chris's idea is just so good. I can't believe you didn't mention it. So we talked about this previously. Chris's idea is how the Raiders have got the big horn. Chris's idea is that we should cut up the opposition fans' jersey, Peter Gow style, at the start of every single match. It's so good.
Yeah, but see, the thing about the horn is it's pre-recorded. The horn kills me. It's like the Parramatta chant going on. Like it's pre-recorded. The guy goes to put his mouth towards the horn, and he doesn't know whether he goes. Someone gives him a signal. And I don't know if you guys saw last week, but it made the socials. Which Flats put this up as well. But there was a guy actually lighting up a bomb behind the horn, and it made the Fox leave. So there's a lot of things can go wrong. You've seen it with Boldo, obviously the 12th man in the NFL with the Seahawks, and they do something similar. But we'd have to take up capacity to do a stage somewhere.
Well, I thought it was good when they did the sponsorship for the scarves and one of the what was it, One Solution or whatever they were called. God, I've got the scarf and I wear it sometimes. I'm sure. Was it One Solution?
One Solution, yeah.
Yeah, who provided scarves for everyone. And so Dino's trying to tap into that Premier League style, the song before the match. It was interesting that Dino said, with that Sharkies chant we put up during the game. Because when that did happen, Chris and I looked at each other and like, oh, God, because we hate the Para Eels chant. I didn't have the heart to tell Dino in the interview that, the canned Sharkies chant. I'm not sure how I feel about that.
Especially now that Parramatta does it like the pre-recorded Para chant, and it sounds like everyone's banging the side of the stadium like we used to do back in Shark Park days and the old sort of metal signs across there. But none of those grounds have that anymore. So I don't know why Para keeps doing it, because they don't have metal signs on the side of there, and no one's banging them away anymore. They're still doing it to this day at the new Combank. So weird.
The Sharks don't have the music right, I think, for the players when they score at the moment. I don't think it's I quite liked it when the players chose their song. So when Ronaldo scores, his song plays and it's his personalised song. It just makes it feel a little more like, oh, yeah, it's the Ronaldo song or it's the Rudolph song.
Well,
and
they did for Manly on the weekend. They played at Eminem's one of his tracks, and Terry Evans actually waited before an actual part of the song dropped before he actually ran the team out. He stood there in the tunnel for quite a little bit and waited for the actual part of the song to drop before he ran out. So, and then the Cowboys last week, I don't know what the DJ was on, but he was trying to pump up their crowd and he kept playing every time there was a stoppage in the game. There was a new rap song came on. So, I don't know what the rights would have to be just to play a track.
Yeah,
surely we own Sweet Caroline.
Well, I don't know if we can sing Sweet Caroline pre-match. Tomo's come through. Boldo, you mentioned the Pepsi Ball to Dino. That had me at hello. Bring it back. The Pepsi Ball was fun. I don't think they can bring the Pepsi Ball back because of the injuries that one creates and causes. Matty, what have you got for us?
Tomo had my idea. Go back to your roots. Go back to the Sharks at the park in the dark in the 90s. Get the Pepsi Ball out. Get the fireworks out. Get the dodgy old lights that got in Alan Jones's eyes back in the early 90s, and he was claiming they weren't regulation when Mitch Healy used to put those bombs up and they'd spill it. Go back to old school. But no, in all seriousness, one of my ideas was the getting everyone on the field afterwards, but obviously that has, like Kelly said, but Franko says you got to pump it up pre-game, that's post-game, and we've got, I suppose, curator issues there, and that's understandable. You want the surface to keep up like it did, like Dragons game this year. There was talk of it being flooded and it came out immaculate. Boldo and I spoke pre-show, and I may be stealing Boldo's idea. Tailgate parties like you see in the States, we just don't have the real estate for that, nor in Australia. I think we have the the laws and the like to allow that to happen. It's very college football fraternity. It's fantastic. It is. I've been to one and it was awesome. But I don't think we've got the setup here for that, unfortunately. So what I kept coming back to, and it sounds trite, is get a working leagues club. And I think that will help enormously. So that's my take there. I think we have a working leagues club. We have something that makes sure we're at or near capacity every week, and that ticket is it's the hot ticket in town. At the moment, we've got that capacity that they're leaving money on the street, but it's frustrating that the Tigers game wasn't sold out, but pretty much every game has been 12,000 and people wanting to get in. Hopefully that builds and we're regularly with that reduced capacity of 18 getting at or near that to make that event out of it. The ticket that people want to be getting, the hot ticket in town, basically.
All right. Well, look, it's not an easy ask to make the match day experience more exciting and better for the Sharks fans, because most of the ideas, if they were possible, they probably would have done them already. None of us came up with an idea during the game. Was one observation I would have for us. Do we try and emulate the English Premier League and have Nottingham Forest do it very well, as does Liverpool, with singing a song pre-match? Just not sure Australians are going to get into that. I think we've done well to have the up Cronulla. And so I think that if we had a song pre-match, I think that would just take away from the post-match song. I think it comes back down to the attacking brand of football and the football style that the Sharks fans can all be proud of. And if you do that, that certainly makes the experience a lot of fun. I like the idea of the flags too. So I'd probably be pitching a sponsorship to one of the upcoming sponsors of the Sharks and saying, you can sponsor the flag and we'll give out thousands of these and we'll make sure your logo can't be missed. All right, if you've got any comments or suggestions for the game day experience, please do get them in the comments on either YouTube, Facebook, or Spotify, because we'll be interested to see what anyone might think later on. As we move on to the league roundup with you, Mr. Kelly, I will bring your slides up on the page. We'll do that, and we'll hit that one and just make it slightly bigger. All right, Chris, take us around the league. What is happening for Sharks fans around the league that we might want to know about?
Well, obviously, everyone, as we know, finally Origin has ended, so we can get past this terrible part of the season. It was obviously an entertaining match where we had a trialless first half, but obviously a big brouhaha in the 30th minute. We saw some controversial sin bin send-offs, suspensions since then, plenty of fines. We're up to 10 players charged out of this handbags at 10 paces. But obviously the Blues went on to win 14-4 in quite an enthralling match. So I don't know about you, but I finally kind of enjoyed a match, although gamble responsibly, it cost me a lot, but it was quite entertaining. Franko, did you enjoy this one?
I did, mate. Yeah, it was a good one. I enjoyed it. There was didn't quite enjoy the refereeing, but that's getting a little bit too into the discussion of the game, which I really don't want to do. But overall, yeah, I thought it was a good game.
My debrief would have gone quite long on Ashley Klein's performance, but we'll just move on from that. So everyone, Origin is finished. We can move on and go into the real stuff. So obviously an update with Parramatta, with Jason Ryles being appointed coach of the Parramatta Eels for next season. But interestingly enough, he's been granted a release as of this week to head over to Parramatta. He's told his old mate Trent Barrett from the old Dragons days that he was no longer required his services. So Baz again will be without a job for the next season. So it's another assistant coach going to merry-go-round. He hasn't named who his support cast is going to be, but there's a lot of scuttlebutt coming out of Parramatta about in regards to Mitchell Moses and Gutherson being captain next season. A few players joked today because obviously the media started looking at players' contracts and saying they're going to get a tap on the shoulder. So the joke at Parramatta is, I'm getting a tap on the shoulder next week. So they're not really listening to the noise that's coming out of there. So watch this space to see what happens with some assistant coaches. Interesting enough, Channel 9 put up this table of this time last year after round 20, and much has changed over the season. You can see, Sharks fans, if you thought we were doing not so well this time last year, we're actually in 6th position on one less win, and our for and against was a massive difference of 23 points. So we're sitting 3rd this year. Last year we're down at 6th. The Eels are in 7th. Rabbitohs are in 8th. They're at the bottom of the table towards that way. The Roosters were 14th and were absolutely awful. We know how that turned out. Our friends, the Dragons, were down in 16th and they're up pushing 9th, so not much has changed. And the friggin' Storm won't go away. So take that as you will. Compare it. Williams, what do you think the two difference in this year and last year in that?
Yeah, obviously, as you predicted earlier in the year, so teams like the Warriors fell away, multiple reasons there. The Broncos fell away massively, and the Storm are just hanging around. They're actually performing better this year than they did last year. So, yeah, Panthers are thereabouts. Cleary's back. That's very ominous. No team since the Dragons in their 56 to 66 inclusive premiership run have won more than 3 straight. So the Panthers are odds on, I reckon, to do that this year at this rate.
Seagulls are looking better.
Seagulls
you know, it all rests on that number 1 player. Again, he had a whale of a game on the weekend and obviously took on a team falling off in the Titans. Cleary was back, obviously, on the weekend, like Williams suggested, and kicked a 45-metre 2-point field goal in extra time to win the game against the Dolphins, who had a handy lead and probably should have taken a 1 at an earlier stage. But, yeah, interesting to see the sort of if we look back only 12 months ago in the same position. We were probably falling off the perch a little bit there. That's where we're in our little dire area where everyone thought the wheels had fallen off. But yeah, we'll talk about that on the next slide anyway. So interesting enough, came out this week, the Roosters. So after all the talk the last couple of seasons about the Sharks not beating the big teams, this was an interesting stat that came out this week, that the Roosters, since 2020, are 1-20 against the Panthers and the Storm, including the weekend just gone where they lost again. And this season alone are 1-8 against top 8 teams. So they seem to just glide by the last couple of years, and no one, we were getting hammered last season about us. We can't beat the big teams. We can't beat the top 4. We can't beat the top 8 team. We had the easy run in 2016. But if you have a look at the Roosters' record, not that crash hot. They again lost to the Storm on the weekend. We're pretty far off the pace. Yeah, Matty?
They were a long way off the pace against the Storm the other night. I'm just wondering, in previous years, like that game during COVID at Lang Park, absolute ripper against the Storm, went to Golden Point. I think they traded field goals and Pappenhausen got the winner. Sam Walker was quite young there. I wonder if it's the clutch players, Sam Walker's development maybe, versus you look at Cleary, who's really come along. Same to the Storm with Hughes, Munster and the like. So I think the Roosters have the team to do it, but whether they've got the right players in the star playmaker position, still developing.
Yeah, which is kind of funny. They just kind of
Tomo's come through, Chris, and said finally the media are focusing on somebody else.
Yeah, well, again, sorry, Tomo. Again, the Tigers reared their ugly head tonight on 360. Like I said last week, we sat with some Tigers fans and mates of Boldos last week, and I just felt sorry for them getting ripped every week. But we moved on. Interesting to see the Roosters. And our last segment, obviously, is the launch today of the NRLW season. We're seeing a few more teams come into it and a bit bigger of a competition. The girls are riled up after having their 3-game Origin stint, and we get to see it kick off this Thursday night. Quite excited to see how these teams go, and I'm sure we'll roll into the our next discussion point as a bit of a segue.
Yeah, so we're in the 7th season of the NRLW. Sharks finished outside the top 4 last season. We're at $7 odds on with the TAB to win that competition. Yeah, Chris, give us the rundown. I can't say I'm a massive expert on the NRLW, so anything you can educate us on would be most appreciated.
Yeah, no worries. Quite an interesting competition this year. Obviously, Andrew Abdo came out and said they're going to do another expansion of another 2 teams next season. Like Boldo said, it's our 2nd season into this competition. Interesting enough, when the NRLW kicked off, we all thought the Sharks and Dragons were definitely going to be in that competition. And, of course, a bit of criteria bias came out. We only saw 4 teams included in that. It's now gone out to 9 games this season with a top 6 coming into it. So, yeah, I'm quite excited. Obviously, Emma Tomagata is playing at 6 for us instead of her favourite position towards the back. We've got a few new recruits in the team. We spoke on last week. They had a draw with the Roosters in one of those trial matches where players come on and off, where unlimited interchanges. There was no goals, much to Boldo's dismay. So there was no 2 points taken in that match. But like I said, they fell out a couple of players out of that, and it should be a cracking season. They're expecting record-breaking points, tries, and crowds. Andrew Abdo said today. So I believe so. I reckon this game is just growing in leaps and bounds. You see other leagues across the globe, including saw the back of success of the Matildas. You saw the WNBA now is picking up in sponsorship and viewership with a few hot players coming out of college. And I think we'll have the same with the NRLW.
Certainly the quality of players picks it up.
The cynic in me says it's easy to beat records when you've added extra games each week, so there's more tries, more people. It's obviously going to break records. I think.
Yeah, but I think on the back of the Origin series, like they finally had a 3-game series instead of a 2-game series, and it was record numbers. They sold out all those games, so it'd be interesting to see.
Harley's come through and called out. What do we got? Emma Tonagato at 6 and Taylor Preston at 7. The halves of the Sharks are pretty heralded, aren't they? Considered pretty good.
Pretty
the
good players.
We've got a really good team. So much so, I think a lot of people who sort of follow the Women's League expected the Sharks to do a lot better last season. And we're a bit shocked that we didn't make the finals. We've augmented what we thought was already a very good team with a few key signings, which is going to be interesting to see. But yeah, certainly expecting good things from us this year.
A few points there,
Maddie. The girls, sorry, buddy. The girls are playing 11 a.m. on the Saturday up at North Queensland as well. We got $1.25 to the North Queensland's $4, so we're already going red hot favourites in that first game. But it's good to see at least the NRL's lining up those games. Sorry, mate.
Aren't they? They're playing at Sharks at 11 a.m., aren't they?
Yeah, sorry, sharp up. Yeah, but it's good, what I mean, it's good to see them line up with those opponents. At least they're sort of aligned with us playing the Cowboys and things like that. So probably travel costs, mate. You probably have to ask them.
It might well be to do with the draw as well. We played in Townsville last year. The disappointing thing, so obviously you got the Beer Footy Food Festival involving Newtown. I know a lot of Sharks fans are going to that on the same day, the same afternoon. So you could maybe get in a Newtown for a 3 p.m. kickoff be tough. And then the Sharks are playing that night. So it'd be nicer if the draw allowed things to be a bit more compliant for those people who want to get out and about to go to a lot of places. A few comments from me. Maddie Studden, who was a huge signing for us last year, is unsigned and playing in Queensland in the second tier competition up there. So not sure if you guys know anything about that. She was obviously a star last year, maybe getting towards the end of her career.
She didn't really play much last year. She was sort of a reserve player. She, had the legacy of being one of the inaugural NRLW players. She was big in women's Origin. And so certainly a good story to sign her for the Sharks last season, but she was unsigned last year and we sort of just picked her up close to the beginning of the season from memory. So didn't get many appearances, and it's not really surprising, unfortunately, although she's a big face of the game.
Yeah, you're right. So NRLW, obviously, the women's Origin series was huge with sellout crowds, fantastic. Interesting thing I was listening to on SEN, so we'll give them a shout out, talking about AFLW really hasn't kicked on. It hasn't taken on. You look at the quality of the scores, it's almost like a punchline. And there was questions as to why. And you look at it, women's AFL wasn't really accessible to them. So a lot of players are coming in and playing it for the first time and the quality there. Whereas you look at touch football is enormous. OzTag, massive. So it was really just putting the tackle component in. Obviously, that's a big change and we're seeing it develop more and more. But the baseline level of women's football, and it's one of the fastest growing sports in Australia. Obviously, a similar thing again, if you've got starting with 0 and all of a sudden there's interest, of course, you're going to have 1,000% fold increase, but the fact that they've got that baseline and that talent pool to build off is awesome, and that's the fact that the product is so good is driving that. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this competition goes. We were there for their round 1 game before the Sharks game, where we lost to Manly last year when we beat the Raiders in round 1. So there you go, a Sharks team winning round 1. Hopefully they do the same again this year. It's entertaining. It's open. It's almost like, and watching the Origin games, it's almost like League from the 90s and 2000s, less ruck interference and the like. It's starting to get in there now. I'm going to blame the Storm for that. I don't even know if there's an NRLW Storm team, but let's blame them for it anyway. Anyway, that maybe the Roosters we'll blame the 2002 Roosters for the ruck interference as well.
They're diving at the play the ball.
That's it. That's dominant tackles.
Oh, good.
It was interesting as well during the State of Origin series, and I think it's a lot to do with junior football. They brought in Ladies League tag, and that's now massive. Like, they've now got over 120,000. I think they said it might have been double that of registered players just in Australia now. So the promotion of league tag for women to get into the game, and then, like you said, move up to the tackle, and they've got a massive talent pool. So it was kind of a bit of a spectacle when they first started. Before, when obviously we had the Dragons and the Sharks, and we had a few players running sort of post match, and it wasn't really a sanctioned match under the NRL. But good on the NRL for pushing it forward this Thursday night as well. Like it's the prime time game. There's no Thursday night first grade NRL game, so the NRLW get prime time on Thursday night and get to showcase what it's all about.
That probably shows how far the game's come too. The fact that 9 is actively pushing not just NRL but women's NRL compared to the old days of you'll get your Sunday game at 4 p.m. or even worse 5 p.m. condensed with ads. Sorry, you got to wait for after Burke's backyard. So it's good that the game has got to that point that they've held 9 to account and go, you will show our game, and the fact that they're showing the women's game is even better.
I can't believe they used to wait until after Burke's backyard.
Exactly.
The Channel 9 footy. That is astounding, actually. It was a very good show, Burke's backyard.
Go on. Give it a shout out. Go on.
Shout out to you, Don Burke, a legend. All right, we're going to move on to the last segment of the show, Jets Watch. I don't think this actually is with Kelly. I think we're going to throw on to Franko with this one. So the Jets,
jeez.
Yeah. Kelly's been working hard this episode, actually. So, well, look, it wouldn't be an episode of this show without me making a mistake on the damn headings. All right, so the Jets had a loss last week. What was it, 34-24? I thought Billy Burns looked good. And interestingly, when you watch the Sharks highlights or the Jets highlights, it seems to just be all Jets tries and nothing from the Newcastle guys. Franko, what's worth knowing about the Jets at the moment?
Yeah, I was told to talk about the women, and so I prepared for the women, and now you're going to tell me to talk about the Jets. No, look, this round is going to be a little bit of a more Newtown flair than Sharks flair because of the injuries we've had and the shuffling of players. Like I said earlier in the Cowboys match preview, we might see Stone Street drop down and make an appearance for the Jets. Ultimately, we're doing fairly well. Where we're in the top 4, top 5. We're sitting at 5th there. So we're doing pretty well. We had a bit of a streak before going a bit win-loss. And I think, we're doing, I was going to say we're doing well, but I've said that. So to extend from there, I think, the chopping and changing of the players, I think, ULE not there. Big Tukes has not been named in either squad, so I'm not sure what's happened there, if he's picked up an injury. I kind of expected to see him named here in the Jets, but as we know, the Jets aren't beholden to the same restrictions of NRL. You can make changes for players that are not named and throw them in for game day. So he might make an appearance, but he's not listed. Players to watch out for, I think young Healy is really good. Obviously, Beryl's good, a bit of a seasoned professional there, but young Healy's got a lot of spark going. It's a bit sad to see. There's a few rumours floating around on the various forums talking about maybe Healy is going. He's unsigned and will be looking for to move to another club. So that would be really disappointing if that eventuates. I'd really sort of saw him as leapfrogging Beryl and being next in line in the event that something happens to Brayley. Without him, I don't know what's happening with our depth if we're going to re-sign Beryl, who's also off contract. So a bit of an interesting scenario there, but I would like to see Healy stick around. We all know how much it hurt to see Peachy leave and go take the name away for somewhere else. And I'd sort of feel slightly similar with the young Healy playing and maybe doing well at another club, which would be a real shame to see. So that'd be upsetting. Looked like
you need to get Darren Moody on as your next interviewee to make sure that these signings.
I think that would be a goodie. Darren Mooney would be a goodie.
Be interesting from a 2016 perspective as well. But on a tangent, Jets Watch being a dedicated section, I'm not sure if we touched on it. So there was talk about the Jets being marrying up with Perth and being the Perth Jets, or aligning with a top tier NRL new franchise. A recent article involving John Singleton, who was the backer of that, he's pulled his money out and said he's not going to pursue it because he was sick of them being used as a pawn to boost money up basically against North Sydney and the like. So that was posing the question of, do we keep Newtown or do we remain aligned? Or if Newtown or the Jets name suddenly becomes a first grade team, we'd have to find our own new reserve grade team or start our own again. There's pros and cons there, but it looks like I don't know what the contractual basis is, but settled with the Jets for a few more years yet.
Yeah, I wonder what happens to some of those players who aren't in the top 30 that are Jets players. I guess they go with the Jets.
Correct. That's the frustrating thing. That the limitation of the current setup is a lot of players like Billy McGulis is another example, not signed to the Sharks. He's a Jets player. Same to Kevin Kingston when he made his debut for us. I think back in 2005. That was a bit of a.
You are incredible, Williams.
Thank you. There was a bit of a legal hoop to jump through there that he was contracted to the Jets and couldn't play for us, so they had to kind of get him Darren Mooney be able to explain more, even though he wasn't at the club, but a second tier contract or something to sign him with the club and then allow him to play first grade. So we can't just promote anyone, and that's the limitation too, in that we're playing give and take with the Jets as to who fits where, what's better for the first grade team. You'd argue probably a lot of what happens in Newtown isn't better for the first grade team. And I'm probably stealing a little bit from the recent Fins Up podcast that I've listened to, where they were talking about how players drop back there and aren't utilised, don't play like they would in first grade. So it makes it hard to judge watching them as well. When you see someone go back and have a stinker, for example, Daniel Atkinson apparently did at fullback, a merely different position, it is hard to judge form in the current standpoint. Where if it's a wholly and solely Sharks reserve grade team, we've obviously got all the money and resources associated with that, which is a burden on the club, but you can run it the way you want to run it.
Yeah, there's different ways of running a reserve grade team, especially if it's your own, right? There's a bit of pride in making sure you win the comp, but you don't, if your sole purpose of a reserve grade is to develop players, you would make sure that you've got players trying things and developing themselves and not so much winning as the forefront, right? So yeah, whereas Newtown Jets, they want to win. That's their brand. They want to be up there. They want to have good players, and the NRL coached players from the Sharks give them that opportunity that they wouldn't otherwise have to be successful.
Different format, apparently. This is coming off the forums, but an article I saw recently too is that the Broncos, for example, and the Cowboys and the Dolphins and the Titans, they have multiple Queensland Cup feeder teams that all those players can play first grade. Same too with was it Brisbane North and Sunshine Coast for Melbourne Storm. They can all play and be promoted. So it's a different model, and that's where, if you look at it, it's not a fair system. But I suppose that's what we signed up for.
Another way we're getting darted, Williams.
Yeah. That's it.
We've done that before. Haven't we done that before for a season? I think we've done that for a season before. We've had a Queensland Cup feeder team, did we not?
You're right. We may have
we did
in the early 2000s. And we had the joint venture with the Melbourne Storm that won the premiership in 2012, 13. The Storm Sharks around that era. Chad Townsend halfback for reserve grade. So, yeah, we have tried a few different models. You're right. We did have, I think I'd have to look back up. I might have to use that as homework. We did have a feeder team from Queensland at one stage.
Paul's come through saying, plus you can play New South Wales Cup before first grade. That's true.
Maybe an idea both from a club perspective.
Well, it's a whole another argument about state of origin and where the money comes from and where it goes. Because, like I said, I know what they spent on some of the pyrotechnics for that game. And you found out what they spent in that entertainment space for state of origin compared to what they pump back into grassroots. Because a lot of old league fans would like to see three grades. I know Franko would go down there as well, go and watch Flag Cup and first grade. I know a lot of people would still love to go and do that, which helps Franko's festival idea. But, it's just about New South Wales Rugby League, and then, we'll come together and spend a bit of money there.
All right. Well, I'm going to cue the music up. That was
enough.
And anything else from you fellas before we get out of here? Final says for Williams?
I've got one final one. I was going to put in the socials, but it's a bit of a sadder point. So Gary Cameron was in the socials for the Sharks during the week. So he was a hat-trick triple try scorer in our 1979 AMCO Cup win over combined Brisbane, where the Sharks won 22.75 with the Brisbane team scoring through some guy called Wayne Carr and Mal Meninga kicking the goal. That team also had
that actually his name?
So Wayne Carr, correct? Wayne Carr. Oh, sorry, Norm Carr. There's another player called Wayne Carr, but Norm Carr. Norm Carr. Sorry, Norm. Sorry, Norm. Norm.
We know who the Wayne Carr is now.
Yeah. So anyway, Gary Cameron is the guy we're talking about here. He passed away at the age of 69. He played a total of he's a 5'8". He played a total of 35 matches for the Sharks from 77 to 1980. Was man the match in our first main final. Man the match, thanks, Paul. Our first bit of silverware. Got a hat trick, which is just phenomenal. The other try scorer that night was Rick Burke. Steve Rogers with 5 from 9. That's an interesting kicking percentage there. So all the best and well wishes to our esteemed 5'8" there, Gary Cameron's family, passing away at the age of 69.
Sad. In other news, I guess you mentioned in the socials there that the Sharks store in Kareela will be shutting down. While that is correct, there will be a pop-up store with limited merch available for people who venture into that club. So still an option there for those people that are local to the club.
Back on my last point, sorry. There was 2 cars playing for that Brisbane. There was Norm Carr and Wayne Carr confirmed. Number 6 was Wayne Carr. Number 8, the captain, was Norm Carr. I'm actually not sure who the try scorer was. Let's have a look at it. It was... Thank you, Rugby League Project. It was Norm Carr, not Wayne Carr. Sorry.
Oh, goodness. All right. Some of the comments that we've missed throughout the night. Benjamin Turner called it out and said that I should not be tipping the Cowboys because I should not forget that the Chad plays for the Cowboys. Williams 2.0 came through and said an idea is cheaper beer. Cecil came through saying that Sharkies by 19 was his tip. Other than that, Lats came through and said that I give myself enough rap, so no need for Franko to give me one. And I think that is all of the different comments that we had. Other than that, we've got I'll just hide Lats's comment there. We've got the Chronicles coming up this week. Which match are we doing, Matty?
Tomorrow night, 2001, we'll go back to Preston Campbell carving up and a good old-fashioned all-in brawl that I think it went off the field. Anyway, it started and stopped and started and stopped 3 times. There were punches thrown. There were 3 players sent to the hat-trick. Sent to the sin bin. And we had Brett Gross and Damien Mostyn in the back line. So, cracker.
Nice one. And then keep an eye out for me appearing on the On the Ranch podcast, which I think goes live tomorrow. It's good fun listening to. Oh, fine. That's fair enough. All right. Anyway,
against you.
We just
against you. It's against opposition podcast. But I did listen to your Tigers one, so I might give this one a sticky beak as well.
Yeah. Well, it's a good chance to just get a handle on what's going on with the other teams actually as we take on the opponents. So, and we'll be publishing a video. I've got Rob from On the Ranch doing a video with us where he talks through all the latest current happenings of the Cowboys. So that one will probably go live on Wednesday or Thursday. And then please do keep an eye out for the debrief live to about 2.5 hours after. Yes.
No, just pointed the debrief host.
Oh, right. Who? Williams?
It's always Franko.
It's typically Franko. And then lastly, Franko, are you able to pick what my name is? Slider.
I was the only one that put something forward as an option, so no, I didn't think too hard, mate. What is it?
Slider is the wingman for the Iceman.
I was going to say that. I was actually going to say that. I was going to say it's not a Top Gun character, is it?
It's the Top Gun character.
So why are you the wingman for Iceman?
Because Iceman got picked. So I'm all about the Iceman, dude.
His nickname is Ice. Although I will say that's and the times that I type his name into my iPhone, it autocorrects to Udon. I feel like Udon might be the new nickname. But,
we've already got someone. We've already got Rami and Noodles, so we can't have Udon.
I know.
Yeah, Udon and Noodles. Great combo.
I was going for Qui-Gon Jinn, Lee Mason.
That was the ET Stand podcast. I'm your host, David Bolderman. For my fellow co-hosts, Stephen Franklin, Chris Kelly, and Matthew Williams. Up, Cronulla. We'll see you guys soon.
For over 50 years, people have come to see the Sharks play. Talent, skill, speed, intelligence, elite-level athleticism. That's not these guys. Biased, one-eyed, opinionated. More often wrong than right. They make up for their complete lack of talent with pure dribble, gibberish and enthusiasm. This is the ET Stand Podcast.